Mulai ya. Okay, well, we cordially invite you to be quiet and keep focusing in your area because the seminar will be held in a few minutes. So don't forget to mute your Zoom applications so that the seminar will be run in conducive manner. Well, ladies and gentlemen, okay, good evening. It's a warm greeting to each and every one of you. So welcome back to the International Nursing Conference 2023. Right now, I'm Zara Aulia and I'm going to moderate the sessions. On behalf of the organizing committee, we extend to our appreciations for your participation today. Okay, moreover, to continue this seminar, in the sessions, we have last one speaker from Minnesota, USA. So I want you to make sure to focus on this seminar and keep going to the next. Well, we have speaker who are already with us. We have a Professor Teddie Potter, Philosophy Doctor, Registered Nurse, Fellow of the American Academy of Neurology, Fellow of the National Academies of Practice. And as far as I'm concerned, we know that the material are too important, so keep watching and listening. I would like to invite the special one speaker later on. So, ladies and gentlemen, the last one speaker from Minnesota. Okay, before we invite her to join with us, I will show you about her curriculum vitae. Okay, well, Prof. Teddie Potter, she has a title as Clinical Professor, Population Health and System Cooperative, Director of Planetary Health School of Nursing, Specialty Coordinator, Doctor of Nursing Practice in Health Innovations and Leadership, School of Nursing, and appointment member of University of Minnesota. So for the next, she has award at 2020 Trust Award for Collaborations and Partnership. At 2017, Teaching of Social Engagement Daisy Award. And 2018, Institute on the Environment Fellow. And about her
and or evening for you. So thank you for being with me today. I'm going to share my screen, and if you can put questions in the chat, that would be helpful because then I will be sure to answer them at the end. Okay. So this is a conference about children, and there's nothing more important about protecting the focus environment, and you'll learn more about that as we move along today. Okay. First of all, I will acknowledge that caring for the environment and living in balance with the environment is not new. Humans once understood how to do this. We once understood that you can't pollute your waters, you can't overfish. In your nation, your indigenous people might also be protecting the environment, and that's really important. But we all need to be moving ahead on this. Let me see where my things went. There we go. So this is a picture of Minnesota. We are a land with lots of water. We have the Mississippi River runs through our cities. On one side, in the left, you see the buildings of Minneapolis, one of our large cities. And the buildings on the right part of this picture are the University of Minnesota, where I work. The name Minnesota is actually a Dakota word, the people that originally lived in this land, and it means the place where the waters reflect the skies. And generally, we live in a place with brilliant blue skies and clean, fresh air. And you can see the stars at night, and it's very, very clean. But recently, let's see, this is a little slow here. It looks like it's frozen up just a little bit here. Let me see if I can unfreeze it.
Hello, Prof. Teddie. Any problem? Okay. Baik, kepada seluruh audiens, ditunggu dulu. Mungkin Prof tadinya masih kendala sinyal dari USA. Ini sedang proses untuk menghubungkan lagi.
Okay, for some reason it booted me out. We'll try this again. Okay. Okay, can you all hear me okay?
Yes, Prof.
Okay, sorry about that. So we'll start at where I left off. So usually our skies are brilliant blue, but something is happening right now in our part of the world. And what that is it's caused by climate change. Our world is warming very, very fast, as is yours. And because of that, the forests in Canada are on fire. There are major fires all over the northern forests of Canada. You can see them all over here. And that is creating a lot of smoke, and the smoke is coming right over our state. So we have been in the danger zone on our air quality. We have not been able to be outside. If we're outside, we need to wear masks. Our little children can't play outside. They're canceling sports. They're canceling air traffic because the planes can't there's no visibility. It's a very, very serious situation. And as a nurse, it's a very serious situation for all of these people. At particular risk are people living with respiratory diseases, such as COPD or asthma, people who have heart disease, high blood pressure, or diabetes. Pregnant people are at added risk, and children are at added risk. That's why this topic fits so well with your conference about protecting our children. The other day, just a couple days ago, I walked out with my grandson at night, and this was the color of the sun because of the smoke in the sky. It was a red. The sun should not be a red color. So this is very, very frightening and abnormal. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. in our country said, "We are all caught in an inescapable network of mutuality, tied into a single garment of destiny. Whatever affects one directly affects all indirectly." So as a nurse, I see these connections. I call myself a web walker. I see how these things fit together, that you can't have healthy people without a healthy environment. So why are these threads that connect us and keep us healthy and keep us safe, why are they breaking? What's happening? And the answer is, we are now living in what's called the Anthropocene. It's a geologic era where the impact of humans on the environment is so severe that we are we're actually impacting the health of the planet. So as a nurse, I wanted to paddle upstream to find out why is this happening? What's the cause of this? What's going on that this is happening? And there's a couple reasons I want to share with you. One is our overpopulation. We are a species of animal, just like any other animal, and our population has gone crazy. For the most part, we had a stable human population up until the 1800s. And that's when we started burning fossil fuels and coal. That had some really good advantages. We were able to grow our crops faster and more effectively. We were able to start healing diseases. We were able to be safer and not have as many fires or dangerous things that killed our population. That's all good. I don't know why that keeps booting me out. I think what I will do, I sent to, let's see, I sent to Devanga the copy of my slides so that you can pull it up on your end, and that might solve the situation. I can then click, say, click forward. So are you able to pull up my slides on your end?
Okay, well, Prof. Teddie, we will to prepare your slide. Okay, please wait.
Thank you. I'm sorry about this.
Okay, never mind, Prof.
Otherwise, I can do it without slides too. I can just speak the part.
Okay, well, Prof, we still try to open your slide. Okay,
Well,
Prof, it's a problem.
The number of humans living on the earth has been very stable. We now are at a point where it's very, very high. As a matter of fact, we just last November. As I said, when we were stable, we had about 200 to 600 million people living on the planet. That was fine. There was enough fish. There were enough trees. There was enough water when we had 600 million people. But we're at 8 billion people. And there's a problem because the earth cannot produce enough resources for us to survive. So we have to look at that. Right now, we are using up that. Right now, we are using up 1.5 Earths to keep our way of living going. You can't use more than is available without eventually running out. So we have really used up our future generations, our children's future, by the way we live. And these are some of the other things that are causing problems. We're clearing forests at a rate that is very, very alarming. And forests have important benefits to us, not only for food and wood products, but the shade is very, very important for people's health, to have adequate trees and shade. They also draw down carbon from the atmosphere so that we have decreased problems with global. We can't have any food without those species. We also have the ocean is becoming acidic so that our fish can't thrive in the oceans. And people who depend on fish for their diet will not have the food they need. Many places, the land is becoming desert. We are polluting our soil and our air and our water. Rivers are drying up, and we are certainly seeing more severe weather events, such as typhoons in your area, hurricanes in our area. In our nation, we've had ice storms, tornadoes, fires, and it's getting worse. The temperatures are also increasing, so that we are having severe heat days where people can no longer survive. That's wonderful. That looks like the screens. Great. Okay, so if you'll do a slideshow, great. And I'll just fast, and you'll have to put it forward to keep going. Keep going. Go. Yes. 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 Another slide. Another slide. Again. 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 I keep going. Keep going. Keep going. There we go. That's the one. Oh, one back. Thank you so much. If nothing else, nurses always have a different plan in case something goes wrong. So I was talking about all these human-caused problems to our environment right now. And we are also seeing sea level rises. And these are happening faster and faster and faster. So that as the heat goes up, the ice caps are melting, the ice at the polar regions is melting faster. That means that there's less white and more dark colored sea. The dark colored sea holds the heat, so the planet heats up even more. So what we're seeing now is only going to get worse unless we change the way we're doing things. Next slide, please. And this is happening all over. In your part of the world, you're dealing with sea level rise, or you will be, heat waves and wildfires because things are getting dry again. Or if you're not having droughts and severe dryness, it goes the opposite way to severe rains. And it's not the way it used to be, where everything was in balance and rains were gentle. Right now, rains are torrents, causing terrible floods and loss of life. There's increased disasters in your area. And because of those severe and heavy rains, you're seeing more landslides. Next slide, please. As I was reading about your wonderful nation, I thought, oh my gosh, this is such a beautiful, beautiful place. And this is just incredible to me. You have 1% of the Earth's land area, but you have your rainforests contain 10% of the world's known plants, 12% of all mammals, including endangered orangutans and the endangered Sumatran tigers and rhinos, and 17% of all known bird species. You are sitting in a tremendous, beautiful, beautiful place, but we are losing that biodiversity. And when we lose a species, we are at added risk as humans for also becoming extinct. Next slide, please. And why is this happening? It's happening, as I said, for many different reasons that are going on, but I want to go a little deeper into climate change. So you can, as a nurse, explain this to people, explain it to your families, explain it to people that are important to you, so that they understand what's happening and can protect themselves. So the Earth is in a very important place in relationship to the sun. If the Earth was closer to the sun, we would burn up. If it was farther from the sun, we would freeze and become an ice planet. We're right exactly where we need to be for life to exist. And it's a beautiful place that we live. We are protected. Oh, go back one more. Oops. Go back. Keep going back. There we go. We're protected by our atmosphere, and our atmosphere is very, very thin. And it in the past has allowed just enough of the sun's warmth to come in and grow our crops and warm us and keep us safe. And then it sent back out into space the excess heat that we don't need. So it's been really a wonderful balance that we have lived in. But this atmosphere layer that surrounds the planet, we have started adding pollution into it. We've started adding carbon and other greenhouse gases. So now that layer is thick enough and has so many particles in it that the heat from the sun is trapped. It gets stuck around our planet, and the planet is warming because of that. Remember, I told you, you need to be in this perfect balance in order for life to survive. And we are now heating up the planet to a point where it is not safe for us. Here's the thing that I want you to understand. These particles that we're adding into our atmosphere, it takes a while for the Earth to warm up. So the temperature we have right now on our planet is related to the amount of pollution we had in our atmosphere 30 years ago. We still have been, in those last 30 years, been adding more pollution. So it's going to get much hotter than it is right now. Things are going to get much worse than they are right now because of this 30-year lag time. So we need to understand that no matter what we do today, it's going to get worse for at least 30 more years. So that's why it's important for us to do everything we can today to draw down that carbon, draw down that pollution so we can stay alive. Next slide. So this is the carbon levels in our atmosphere over time. And they know this because of the ice down in Antarctica. They can study bubbles trapped in that ice. And they know how much carbon was in our atmosphere 800,000 years ago. And we have, as a planet, kept fairly stable. When we got high, up around 300, we would have jungles everywhere. When we got low, down around 150, we had ice ages and glaciers, but we've stayed in that band. Look where we are now. We are up at 200, up at 409, so way past what's normal. Next slide, please. And as of July, as of this month, we were at 421. We know that we have to keep it at 350 or lower in order to have a planet where humans can survive. And we're at 421 right now. So the more carbon we have in the atmosphere, the warmer it gets. Next slide. In the United States, this is what's happening. You can see the temperatures from the 1900s to now. Look how our nation is getting hotter, hotter, hotter. Next slide. And this is happening all over the world. If you took every year and made it a color, this is Indonesia's colors. This is what's happening for you. Look at this, folks. Look at this. You were a nice, normal pattern a wonderful temperature to growing crops and having forests and having children that are healthy. But look at this last 10, 20 years. Look at how hot your area is. Next slide, please. And as the ice caps melt and as the glaciers melt, we are seeing sea level rise. Right now, our planet is about 1.1 degrees centigrade above normal. At 1.5, look at the map here, at 1.5 degrees centigrade, all of the areas you see in light blue are going to be underwater. If we go up to 3 degrees centigrade, all the areas in orange are going to be underwater. I wouldn't be able to come visit you because your airport would be underwater. Your hospitals, many of them will be underwater. Your places where people live, high rises, apartment buildings, will all be underwater. This is very, very serious. As I said, we're at 1.1 right now, 1.1 change. All we have to do is get a little bit higher and we start to see the sea levels rise. So we have got to change the way we do things. Next slide, please. That went way too fast. Okay. Keep going. Okay, next slide. I'll start here. So all of these things I've mentioned, all of these problems with destroying the earth are leading to health issues. That's why this is a nursing health issue, and why the World Health Organization has said this is a public health emergency. All of these things get worse because of the way we're treating the planet. So we're seeing a rise of cardiovascular diseases, worsening respiratory diseases like asthma, more infectious diseases, more heat strokes. There's mental health concerns. There's malnutrition issues. There's forced migration. People can no longer live where they used to live. And because of that, wars are breaking out. Next slide. The Lancet Countdown has said that the life of every single child born today will be profoundly affected by climate change, with populations around the world increasingly facing extremes of weather, food, and water insecurity, changing patterns of infectious disease, and a less certain future. Without accelerated intervention, this new era will come to define the health of people at every stage of their lives. That means, as a nurse, you are going to be dealing with this. It doesn't matter if you only care for the elderly or only care for children, or if you're a labor and delivery nurse, or if you're a surgical nurse, you are going to be dealing with this. And we need to do everything we can to try to prevent the damage. Next slide. This is Greta Thunberg, the Swedish young climate activist. She was 14 years old when she started her climate movement. Next slide. And she says, we can't save the world by playing by the rules because the rules have to change. Everything needs to change, and it has to start today. Next slide. So that brings me to planetary health. Right about now, as you hear all those things that are changing and the risks to the people that you love and care for, and just what it means for our species and for the planet, you might be feeling like, there's nothing we can do. But I invite you to listen to now the planetary health movement, because it is very exciting and very hopeful. Next slide. So planetary health, it's solutions oriented. That means we're not just studying the problems, it's solutions oriented. We're focused on finding solutions. It's transdisciplinary, meaning it's people from all different fields, nurses, farmers, lawyers, artists, engineers, all coming together to solve this problem. It's a global social movement, and we focus on looking at these human-caused problems and how we can change them, and how we can improve the health of humans and all life on Earth. Next slide, please. So some of you may have heard of, most of you have heard of public health. Some of you may have heard of global health or the UN Sustainable Development Goals. I know you've heard of that because your conference addresses that. But eco-health and One Health are two other types of sort of approaches where human health, animal health, and the land of the health are looked at together. Planetary health is the big arch, the big overarching umbrella or table where everybody can come together and work on this. It is not, you don't throw public health out so that you can move towards planetary health. Planetary health holds all of this. Next slide, please. There is a curriculum to help people begin to learn about planetary health, and we're starting to teach it in our colleges and in our universities. It's called the Planetary Health Education Framework, and it has 5 core principles. Next slide, please. The first principle is that we need to be interconnected with nature and understand that what we do to nature, we do to ourselves. We are absolutely interconnected. It's not, you can't chop trees down here and not have it impact people over here. We're absolutely interconnected. That's very, very important to understand. Next slide. Oops. Yes. We also need to understand that what we're talking about here is human-caused problems. These aren't natural Earth occurrences. This isn't something that occurs naturally. This is a human-caused problem. All the things that we have talked about so far are because humans are causing these issues. So humans have to change their behavior if we want to see these things just go away. This picture here is something that is we're just starting to become aware of, and that is our plastic situation. We are producing so much plastic that there's actually whole areas of our oceans filled with plastics. And the plastics take a long, long, long time to break down. And when they do, they're in tiny particles, and they're now finding plastics in human bloodstream. And they have detected plastics in the cord blood of new babies and the umbilical cord of new babies. What is going on here? That means plastics are crossing the placental barrier, and that can't be good to have plastics circulating in our bloodstream. So we as nurses have to be working to stop this use of plastics. Next slide, please. We also know that the people who contribute the least to these problems, they have the least part in bringing it forward, are the ones who suffer the most. So this really falls on the shoulders of nations like the United States. I will call us out. Europe, Canada, and other nations that use more than our share and pollute more. We are causing these problems. So the solutions have to be solutions for everyone, not just solutions for some nations. Next slide. Next slide. Great. Thank you. We also need to understand that this is very, very complex. You can't just solve one part of the problem. It's all interconnected to the other part of the problems. And I think the UN Sustainable Development Goals shows that it's all interconnected. We need to be working on all 17 goals at the same time in order to restore health. Next slide, please. We also, as nurses, need to be understanding systems and be speaking out when we see something that's not right. So this is Dr. Katie Huffling. She's the director of the Alliance of Nurses for Healthy Environments. And in this picture, she's testifying before Congress, the US Congress, about the environment and how we're harming the environment. So nurses need to be involved in that large systems change too. Next slide. So another document that at the end, you'll get a list of these documents, is called the Sao Paulo Declaration. And what it was drafted by the global community in Sao Paulo, Brazil. And what it says is we need a fundamental shift in how we live on Earth, what we're calling a great transition. And achieving the great transition will require rapid and deep structural changes across most dimensions of human activity. That means in order to solve this problem, these problems that are human caused, human behaviors and human institutions have got to change. Everything has to change. How we do education, how we do economics, transportation, agriculture, healthcare, all of it needs a chance to thrive. Next slide, please. I will make sure that you have copies, a PDF of this presentation so that anyone can have this and share this with other people. So now I'm going to ask the slides to be taken off and open for questions, and I'll try to address as many questions as I can. And let's see, a lot of it's introductions here.
Okay, well, let's ask our presentations from Prof. Teddie. Hello, Prof. Teddie. There is questions in the chat book.
Okay, let's see if I can see here.
Okay,
I'm seeing a lot of names.
The questions is from Yunida Gontor. I have a questions for Prof. Teddie. Hello, Prof. It's amazing information about nurse in the help of climate change. So would you inform us about the real experience about planetary health in Minnesota? Can it be applied in hospital? Also, if we want to learn about nurse in climate change, so should we modify the academic curriculum? Thank you.
If I understand you correctly, it's sort of like, okay, I'm just reading the question here.
Okay.
Okay, that's a great question. Thank you very much. So in the United States, the health system is responsible for 8.5% of our global greenhouse gas emissions, our greenhouse gas emissions in the United States. 8.5%, almost 10%. That means that here we're trying to protect people, we're dedicated to saving lives, and we're using practices that are causing illness and death. So that's a problem. So we're working right now in the United States on decarbonizing our US health system. taking as much carbon out of the system as possible. We're doing that at a national level. I serve on that committee in Washington, D.C. to figure out how are we going to do this. So there's some simple things that we're changing. We're making sure that we don't leave lights on. You all who work in a hospital, you know, you go into a linen closet or a med room and lights have been left on. Don't have the lights on if we don't need the lights on. You can turn them on when you need them. We can make sure that they're looking at gases that they use in anesthesia for surgery, because some of the gases are very, very, they become part of our greenhouse gas problem. So we're working on decreasing that use of gas. We're making sure that our food is local food, and that we're not having it shipped from halfway across the world, shipped to our shores. Let's eat as local as we can. Let's eat, as I said, a plant-based diet. We're trying as much as possible when we need a new ambulance or a new vehicle to have it be an electric vehicle that we're trying to swing over and purchase. We're trying to encourage more bicycle use by our staff, so getting to work, or shuttles, or car share, or transportation on buses. Those are just some of the things that we're doing in the hospital. In the School of Nursing at the University of Minnesota, we're teaching every single student about this. It's in every course, every faculty person is teaching it, because we want our students to graduate to be nurses ready to take this issue on. We want them to be leaders in this issue. So our researchers are starting to study solutions to this problem. Our educators are teaching this, as I said. We're supporting our students to become leaders. We're teaching them how to write policy documents that the people who make the laws in our country can hear from the nurses. Nurses are very respected. In the United States, at least, we are the most respected profession. That's of all professions, not just health professions, all professions. For 21 years in a row, we have been voted the profession that people trust the most. So we need to be doing this communication. We need to be talking to people. How do they stay safe? What's happening? What's going on? So that they understand that they need to be protecting themselves from heat. They need to be watching and be attentive to changes in storms, and that the rains are going to be stronger and they have to get safe. So those are some of the things that we're doing. We're not having it be an elective that only some nurses do, or a honors course that only some people do. We are making sure every single nurse understands this. And I hope that answered the question.
Okay, Prof. Well, there is best explanations for the questions. So for the next questions, okay, that's from Miss Fajri Febrini. Okay. Hello, Prof. My question is, what do you think about the program All Suitable to be implemented in Indonesia, realizing the concept planetary health?
That's a wonderful question, because it really is about local. It's understanding planetary health is a big issue, and that what happens in Indonesia matters to me because I'm connected to Indonesia. We can't be isolated anymore. We have to recognize we're one planet, one group of people, and we have to work together. But the work that's done has to be based on what's happening in your area. I'm not going to put a lot of time into working on sea level rise, because in Minnesota, we don't have any oceans. But I'm going to be working on making sure our farmers are protected from the heat. they're out in these very, very hot situations where they can become dehydrated very quickly. I'm working on protecting our children from the bad air that comes because of the fires in Canada. So your issues are going to be a little different. You might be working more on particular loss of species in your area, or making sure that the warnings are coming so that you don't have people drown. You might be teaching about new diseases that are coming. So, for example, we have a lot of mosquitoes in Minnesota, but it's cold in our state. So we have never had to worry about malaria. But now that it's warming, we're starting to see diseases appear that weren't a problem before. So nurses in Indonesia need to also be alert for new diseases that are coming that weren't an issue before. And we need to teach people how to stay safe.
Okay, Prof. Teddie, thank you. Because this is a new thing in Indonesia, even there is not yet to be a nurse at planetary health. Okay, for the last questions, Prof. There is from Eva Agustina. Miss Eva Agustina. Okay, good evening, Prof. Teddie. Due to the pollutions or bad weather, so sometimes we won't allow our children to play outside. Is there any solutions to provide or stimulate our children to improve their motoric development without playing outside?
I love that. Yes, I love that question because we want our children outdoors. That's healthy for them to be outside. They need to play. It's good for preventing obesity. It helps prevent diabetes. It's good for their respiratory status, to be out. And it's good for them, their thinking, because they make connections when they're out playing outside. They make connections that are different than if they're on the computer all the time. We want kids outside. So part of the solution then is to be working with our governments as nurses to make sure we address pollution, air pollution. There's new research showing that air pollution is causing added deaths, especially among children. And we need to be bringing that to our lawmakers and saying, this is not okay. Our future citizens are not going to be healthy and thriving if we do not have clean air. This has to be addressed. In the United States, I can tell you in the 70s, 80s, we had terrible, terrible air in our big cities. Terrible. You could hardly see across the street because big companies were making pollution. Big factories were making pollution. And then a law went through called the Clean Air Act. And our air, for the most part, except for the smoke coming from Canada, our air now across the United States is very clean, even in our big cities, even in places where there's a lot of factories, because this law went in place. So nothing changes until people rise up and say, we have to change. Nurses, because we care about our future citizens, we care about our children, have a very important message to give. Until we clean the air, I would really encourage you to download an app that tells you what the air quality is every day. And I check the air quality, so I know it's going to be a safe day to spend lots of time outside, or it's not a good day to spend time outside. And as a parent, you can know that. When it's a safe day, get those kids out playing. Get them away from their computers or their electronics. Take them to a forest. Help them explore nature. Help them fall in love with the bugs and the flowers and the plants. Help them love the water and the air, because when they love it, they will be our future protectors.
Okay, well, Prof. Teddie, thank you. So, as a parent, we always to check the air conditions. If the air condition is safe, so we can do playing outside. Okay, any questions more? Okay. I think there is no questions more, Prof. Teddie. So before close the sessions, so please give a closing statement to our audience in Indonesia.
I want you to know that you're not alone, that you are part of a global nursing community, that nurses all over the world, whether it's Africa or Peru or Canada or China or Jakarta, are involved in addressing our future health. We are not alone, and together we can do this. Nurses are prepared. We have the knowledge, the skills, and most importantly, the heart to make it a better future for our children. Thank you so much for inviting me today.
Okay, thank you very much from deepest heart. And there is a virtual certificate from our committee to Prof. Teddie. Okay, please, virtual certificate. Okay, once again, thanks a lot and happy continuing activity, Prof. And glad to see ya. Hopefully we have to meet again at the future event.
That would be wonderful. And I hope to see you perhaps in Malaysia when we're there.
Okay, Prof. Nice to see ya.
Bye.
Baik, terima kasih. Akhirnya kita sudah menyelesaikan rangkaian seminar hari kedua pada hari ini yang ada 2 sesi, yaitu sampai dengan malam hari, dikarenakan kita ada pemateri dari USA. Kemudian untuk link absensi sudah di-share dari panitia. Jangan lupa untuk absensinya mengisi ada 2, yaitu absensi di YouTube dan juga mengisi di Google Form. Kemudian mengingatkan kembali bahwa besok masih ada seminar hari terakhir atau hari ketiga yang akan dimulai untuk registrasi pukul 12 siang. Kemudian menginfokan lagi besok untuk pematerinya adalah yang pertama dari Gizi. Baik, kepada seluruh peserta yang sudah absen, selamat beristirahat dan juga jangan lupa besok masih ada seminar hari ketiga, jangan lupa join. Kemudian saya mewakili dari panitia, mohon maaf sebesar-besarnya apabila ada kesalahan dan kekurangan dalam penyampaian dan juga penyelenggaraan seminar. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Pernah dengar posisi data analis? Saat ini data analis lagi banyak banget dibutuhin sama perusahaan besar untuk pengolahan data. Namun ada gap antara kebutuhan tersebut dengan ketersediaan talent data analis yang ada saat ini. Kamu bisa mengisi gap tersebut dan menjadi seorang data analis. Belum punya bekal ilmu dan pengalaman di bidang data? Gimana kalau ada program yang dirancang khusus untuk bantu kamu menjadi seorang data analis hanya dalam waktu 6 bulan? Di 3 bulan pertama, kamu akan belajar langsung dari praktisi data analis perusahaan ternama di Indonesia. Pahami teori dasar, praktik tools sungguhan, dan ngerjain proyek mingguan. Ditambah lagi, kamu juga akan handle proyek data analitik di 3 bulan selanjutnya. Semuanya 100% online, interaktif, dan di luar jam kerja. Jadi, kamu masih bisa menjalani aktivitasmu seperti biasa. Gak hanya itu, kamu bisa mendapatkan refund hingga 100% jika kamu gak dapat kerjaan. Dapatkan semua ini di RevoU, Akademi Pembelajaran Online Revolusioner untuk membantu kamu mendapatkan karir di bidang teknologi. Daftar sekarang!
Green.
Tu pelo.
Sick, right? ¿Te gusta?
I don't know where you've been sold, but I'd be insane not to play my role. Yeah, I know I can break a fall. This takes a low. Just know that I got a hand and I can lend you. And it don't matter when, no, I'll protect you. Call on me, I'm here whenever. So rated in one, move five is best. Just know that I got a hand and I don't know where you've been sold, but I'd be insane not to play my role. Yeah, I know I can break a fall. This takes a low. Just know that I got a hand and I can lend you. And it don't matter when, no, I'll protect you. Call on me, I'm here whenever. So rated in one, move five is best. Just know that I got a hand and I don't know where you've been sold. You've been sold.